He's here right now.
Some of us. Yes.
Who's not? Who is?
Student.
Yeah.
Not. Definitely not.
Always learning.
Yeah, that's
always
right. That's
learning.
right.
Yeah,
Freshman
yeah.
year. I'm learning.
Matt, you're coming back to Indiana for the second year now. Indiana, not a typical program where you guys would normally be doing this, but things have changed in Bloomington.
Yeah. Nothing's typical about what this program's done the past 2 years. So it's awesome to be here. To me, this is one of those stories that, I kind of liken it to like Gonzaga. These guys are probably too young, some of these guys, but, when I was young, that was a Cinderella story team in the tournament. Now it's built up to be one of the top programs where you expect them to win, right? And I think that's what Kurt Cignetti's doing. That's what, this university is trying to build. And I think with building off of what they did last year, it was going to be hard to, take those next steps. It's always the hardest thing to do is that following it up. But they've done it so far, and it's pretty remarkable to think what they've been able to build over the past 2 years.
What do you see from them in terms of the elite quarterback, the consistent elite quarterback play year after year after year, and obviously here?
Well, I'd say it starts off by just, I think, Kurt Cignetti being able to identify what he's looking at in a quarterback, and I think those traits in particular, you go back to Curtis Rourke, you look at Fernando this year, they're both really accurate passers. If they have a clean pocket, they'll eat you alive. I think the other thing I see from them is, allowing them to not only kind of handle things in the line of scrimmage, but not putting like too much on their plate as well, allowing them to be out there kind of play free. But even going back to those JMU days, all those players end up being, conference players of the year. So he's been able to identify, the traits that he's looking for out of his quarterback to be the right fit for his, situation, circumstance. And I liken it to like some NFL quarterbacks you see, right? Guys like Sam Darnold's playing really well at Seattle. Didn't work out in the first few stops. Like Baker Mayfield finds his way to Tampa. Now he's playing as one of the best in the league right now. So situation, circumstance, and fit is so big for quarterbacks. And I think it's a two-way street in college football right now with the transfer portal. Coaches being able to identify who those guys are, but also the players seeing that, like, hey, that's a program I know if I go to, he can maximize my traits and abilities, and that's what Mendoza's doing this year.
When you watch Fernando on film, what really pops to you?
He's decisive with the football. The best coach teams, the easiest way to be able to see how they execute at such a high level, is when they're working through the progressions, they're making the reads, they're decisive. There's no hesitation. You don't see him kind of double clutching the ball. You don't see him with his feet look a little bit, kind of hesitant or a little happy in the pocket, as they would say. That's all because of their preparation, obviously the way they're taught, how they're trained. But it's them feeling confident in the plan and then playing decisively in that manner. So that's what I see from him is he knows where he's going with the football. He's delivering an accurate, throw that's going to be a run after catch, and that's a huge piece, I think, of why they've been so successful.
And what you're saying is exactly what Cignetti said he needed to work on in the spring. Are you surprised that a quarterback can become that prolific at something that fast?
Nothing surprised me anymore with these young guys, man. Like, they're so good coming in as far as mechanically. It's hard, and I don't know how Matt feels about it, but like I go back to being like a multi-sport athlete where when you got to college, they were like trying to change out some of your baseball throwing mechanics and stuff, like not overstriding or not dropping your arm when you throw and all those things you're still working on. Nowadays, these dudes come in so polished, it's incredible. And I think whether it's, some of the true freshmen we've seen, like Malik Washington, the kid in Maryland's playing great, there's so many out there, but then you look at other guys where they're jumping from like team to team, and there's not much of a physical, jump where they're trying to change mechanics. It's just mental, and these young men are so prepared too in that respect. I think because of the technology they have access to, the 7-on-7 and the private coaching they get as they come up, that they're able to make that transition, make it seem much easier than at least it used to be.
What do you feel it is about Kurt Cignetti that makes him an elite coach?
I think there's a few things I'd point to. I mean, the continuity in staff is huge. It's one thing to coach your players. Players are always listening. They're always looking for someone to be able to pour into them and help them to get better and succeed. But coaches are, if we're being real, like all of them are in it to eventually be a head coach one day. And usually when you have a lot of success, your coordinators end up getting poached. They end up, other universities say, I want a piece of what Kurt Cignetti's doing there. And maybe that day is going to come now, now that, they've kind of gotten to this point. But that group has remained intact for, at least with SIG, for at least both coordinators over 10 years on each side, and as coordinators at least in the past 5. So that's a big piece of it. I think, again, talent evaluation, understanding the right character of the type of guy they want within the program. That's a big piece of it, and I think he's a really good ball coach. You look at some of the mentors, his dad, obviously, you look at the impact that he's had on him, being around a guy like Nick Saban. He's, Coach Sig, they don't tell you, but he's a guy who's played the game too, so he has that perspective as a player. I think all that kind of meshes into why he's been so successful.
Going back to your playing days, if you were facing this defense as a quarterback, what would scare you about them, or what would kind of concern you when you kind of look at the film that stands out?
What would concern me is there's probably some matchups up front where you're concerned with your protection. Play a lot of zone, so, for me, depending on where you're at in your career, you give me zone, I'll pick you apart all day. But, for other guys, Nico just got there. He's got a different coordinator now. There's some things that I think they could do to confuse him, to force him to throw footballs, into different, trap coverages or into pressure that might lead to turnovers. So those are some of the things you're always concerned about anytime you see a team that likes to play a lot of zone. It's just their eyes are always on you as a quarterback. So there's more opportunity for them to get tip throws, balls, overthrows, things like that.